Hey y'all, it's Michelle from Poppy Quilt N Sew. I am here today to show you how you can fussy cut when you're paper piecing, as long as your fussy cut piece is in position 1. And so I just wanted to show you, I'm doing this with the papers that we're using for brown bag. This is part of the pillow bonus project. So it's these papers that are part of the brown bag program. And I just want to show you how you can fussy cut without having to use rulers. So there's a couple different things. I am going to show you how to do it with a ruler too, just in case you have the ruler. But I'm going to show you how you can make your own template. So let's get started. So this is what I'm trying to achieve, is 4 of them that look like this with the flower up there and all of that like this. And as you can see, there's the paper on the back side. So what I did is I took this paper and I took, as you can see, I have cut pieces, this template plastic, and I laid it on top of the paper and I made my own template for this piece right here. Now I will show you that Karen's, if you do have Karen's Crazier 8 rulers, you can use the letter A, because letter A lines up with that first one. So you can just use this, and you see how I did the blue tape. That's where I kind of knew where the end of it goes. And then you've got the 1/4 inch on each side. This line right here is actually your sew line. On these papers, they don't show your cut line, basically. So, but to make my own template, which is what this one is, I took this and I laid it under the plastic because the plastic is clear. We do sell this at Poppy Quilt N Sew. It's $3.50. So I am putting it here, and I'm just going to get, I need to get a 1/4 inch passed on each side. And then I'm going to take my little handy Poppy ruler, and I'm going to put the 1/4 inch line on this dotted line. And I'm actually going to put it slightly inside of the line, because when you write with a Sharpie, even if it's a brand new Sharpie, you get a pretty thick line. And so I want it to be just inside that line, so it's pretty accurate to where my 1/4 inch is. I'm going to, oh, see, it just moved. Darn it. What could I do about that? So what I did earlier, and I forgot to do, is I took a little bit of 505 temporary glue, and I just put a little bit on my paper. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to move it over and start again. And by doing that, now my paper is stuck temporarily to that, but it'll peel right off. I'm not losing my paper. I'm not using an extra paper. We're going to still sew on this piece of paper. So let me go again. Just inside that 1/4 inch line, I'm going to draw. I'm going to draw kind of my outer box just so I kind of know. I'm going to turn this other way. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go just inside that 1/4 inch line on my ruler. Put it just inside the dotted line to account for the thickness of my Sharpie. Do that, give myself. I'm going to come down here. Now on this one, we do have, this is your, where you're going to sew when you sew your blocks together. This is your 1/4 inch. So I'm going to just draw on that line and do it over here as well. Here. Okay, so I've got, that's where I'm going to cut, but I also need to know where, so I'm just going to make some marks so that I know when I'm deciding where I'm going to fussy cut, what's going to actually show on the like on the front, like what's going to show once you've got all your 1/4 inches done. And then I also need to know how far I'm going here, because I'm going to cut, that's going to be cut. So we're going to cut along these solid lines, this template plastic, and then I've got, these are just helpful marks for us as we're deciding what we want to fussy cut. So I have one done already. That would be this one. So see, this is the same here. And I've got this line up here. These lines up here is actually the edge of my fabric, and I'm actually going to cut that. That's the outer edge of the block. So when I'm doing that, and then this right here, that's what's going to show. What's going to show is in between all those dotted lines, okay? So see how this just peels right off, and then it dries, and you can use it to actually sew with. So now I have this. I'm going to go to my pretty fabric, and this is from 2025, the Symposium fabric. We've got this in 3 colorways. We can get you a kit. We did fat quarters in our kits so that you would have extra room to decide what you want to fussy cut. And I'm going to go, I think I want this little guy in my, and I want that to be at the bottom. So I'm going to kind of lay it down and kind of decide where I want it. I'm looking at this. I want to make it kind of even. So I'm looking at different things on here to make it even. So I'm just like, whatever my eye just feels like it wants to do. And then you can write either on the top of your ruler or the top of this template plastic. And then you can use alcohol to wipe off those markings later, not on the bottom. Please don't use alcohol on the bottom of your ruler, but on the top, you can see I've marked on this one. I actually used this one to cut the other. I marked like one of the little flowers. I marked the teardrop. This one actually goes. So when I was cutting for the other one that I still need to cut 2 more of, now as I'm doing each one, I've got the flower there, I've got the teardrop, and I've got this line. I've got 3 different spots because you can tweak it like this way or this way even if you only do 1 spot. So I did 3 different spots so that when I came to do each one, I'm going to be cutting it exactly the same. Okay, well now I'm going to do that with this template plastic. And I'm going to do this teardrop with my Sharpie. I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually do the outer part of this because it'll be easier to see. And like we're back in kindergarten. We're just like tracing things. And then I want to do like this right here. Something kind of near the top so that I kind of know to do that. So I've got 1, 2, 3 different things to line up. Cap my Sharpie before I mark my fabric. Do let it dry, the Sharpie, you don't want that on your fabric. And then, okay, so now this could slip, right? And it will because it's very slick. So again, this stuff is amazing because it does not, I've never had it yellow my fabric because it doesn't really stay on the fabric. It stays here and then it dries. So I just put a little smidge. Now, if you put it real heavy, that would not be good, but just put a little smidge. I'm going to reline up with where I was lined up, my 3 different marks. I'm going to press there so it stays. So now that is stuck to there until I like rip it off. And so now it won't slide on me. And I'm going to cut along the edge. Now, you can put a ruler down to cut along the edge if you don't feel comfortable because this isn't as thick as the rulers you're used to. So you can do this and use the ruler. Just put that ruler right along. And you know, I didn't think to bring my rotating mat with me. So a rotating mat would be really lovely right now, but I did bring a smaller mat so that I can just turn it around. Plus it's kind of stuck there. I probably could have just turned the fabric around. And then, because you should never cut towards yourself, right? I never do, I promise. So now I've got one cut like that. See how I can peel that off? It's still a little tacky, not too much. I'm going to put a little bit more on. And I'm going to move to the next one and I'm going to do the same thing. And then you're just going to cut all 4 of them. And then you're going to use them. So I would just do that. I would cut it again, and I would end up with 4 of these that match. Now, what's really fun about this fabric is the shapes match, but the colors change slightly. So I have these 2 here, and see how the shapes match, but the colors are slightly different because that's how this fabric is. So it's going to be really pretty. Okay, so let's go back to what I've already done. So let me use this one. So again, I'm doing the same thing that I just did with that, but now I'm using the Crazier 8 with the markings that I made earlier when I was making this one. And so I need to, and I'm lining up the teardrop, and I'm lining up that line, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way around. Even though I know this is kind of wasted fabric, I still have plenty of fabric. Now, the Creative Grid rulers have a little bit of grip. I would not recommend putting glue on the bottom. I did of this, so I'm going to cut towards myself because I don't have a rotating mat right now. Don't do this at home. All right, so this now looks like these, except it goes this way. So this end is the end that we're measuring from, and when we put it in, it'll end up in that position. So I've got my paper 1. You've got, 1 is where we're putting it, and this is your sewing line. Some paper piecing has a sewing line and has a your 1/4 inch line. This does not. You need that 1/4 inch line for this fussy cutting method. And so I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to make it. Now, on this one here, you can see I did a Sharpie line on my 1/4 inch line, but it was really hard to see. You guys can barely see that, I'm sure. How I usually do it when I'm doing other paper piecing is I actually do a dash line along the 1/4 inch line, and because you're pressing harder on a dash line, it actually comes through better. So I'm going to use my Sharpie, and I'm going to, again, put this 1/4 inch line on my ruler on the line you're going to sew on, and then I'm going to do a dash line. And this is just going to help us line up our first piece on the back side. That. I'm going to do the other side. And the only other mark I need is I need to know where the end is. So I'm going to do that and make sure I'm getting it to go through. And so now you can see it on the back side. This is piece number 1. And this is the correct one. I'm going to put this down here with that without stretching or anything. You start stretching your fabric and it's not going to look the same. So I've got it there. Then I'm going to use this glue stick to temporarily hold it in place. I'm going to do just a little smidge there. Make sure I still have it at the right place. And then I'm going to do this way. Just put a little smidge. You don't need a lot to hold it in place. Make sure I'm in between my lines. I'm in between my lines. I'm not stretching it. I'm just pressing it on so it's there temporarily onto the piece of paper. Next, we use add a 1/4 rulers here, and we use that same template plastic, and we make these to make our 1/4 inch. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to go along where I'm going to be stitching, and I'm going to do number 2 first, not number 3. I'm going to go along where I'm going to be stitching. I put the edge of this here. It makes a really nice way to crease that. And then you've got these, according to the directions, you cut them a certain way, and you get pairs in opposite ways. So these 2 are actually mirror images of each other, and you have to use the correct one here or it won't come out correctly. So how do I figure that out? Well, I know that I am going to put, I did this so easily there it is. Okay. I know that I'm going to put this right sides together. So we put wrong side of this one to the paper. So the right side is showing. And now I know I'm going to slip this under here, right side together. So I want, when this is folded back, it's so important that this be folded back at this point. When this is folded back, I want this to mimic that and be able to go right side together. So you see how I'm covering the paper with it, and then I'm going to slide it under, and see how this ends right here. I'm going to put that near the end. You don't have to, these are cut a little big, so you don't have to go all the way to the end, but I'm going to put it near the end right here like this. And then I'm going to use my fabric glue stick. We carry the Floriani brand of it. And I'm just going to do tiny little dots along this edge to hold it in place before I go to the sewing machine. You could find after you do more and more of these, you probably don't need this step. But when you're first starting, I would highly recommend you glue that down. And then I'm just going to press it. You don't need to heat set it or anything like that. It heat sets itself. These are really great for fabric to fabric. These are not great for paper to fabric, though you can use them for paper to fabric, but fabric to fabric is really what it's for. And so then I'm going to do this out, and I'm going to go sew on that line, which is what I did here. So I did that one out, I sewed on the line, I pressed it out. So you see how it covers that piece of paper. If it does not cover the piece of paper, and it only needs to go to this line, so if you're a little bit higher up, that's okay, but it needs to cover to that line. If it doesn't, seam rip that and try again. So now we're going to do side 3. So what I wanted to show you on this, I find very helpful. Because you have a sewn line here, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to just fold the paper, but if you actually fold the paper and the fabric where that sewn line is, and then do the rest of it along there, and then come back and pick the fabric out of that paper, it's easier that way than if you try to do it without folding the fabric with it. And so now I've mixed up all of these. I don't even know which one's the right one to use. So I'm going to do the same thing I did. I know that I'm doing it right side up. And so right side up, if I tried to put this one down, it's not going to work. It's not going to cover that paper. There's going to be a really hard, I could probably get it to, but it's not, I can tell that's just, it's not right. I need to go to the other one. So this one, see how nicely that covers, how easily that covers the paper. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to do it where that line right there is near the bottom, and put it down where it equals, because I've got my 1/4 inch already cut. I'm going to do my fabric glue pen again, right along this edge. I want to make sure I'm covered here and up here. More important is here, it will, like we've got excess up here. I find it easier to measure from this than to try to measure this, but you can actually do it either way. So then I would take this to the sewing machine and I would sew along that line. When I sew along that line, I end up with this. I've actually already trimmed this one. So once you've got both of those, then you go to your paper and see how this paper is slightly smaller than this one because I've trimmed it to size. This is the size, and you need to trim it to size before you remove the papers. Once you've trimmed it to size, that's when you can come back and remove the papers. It's always advisable to start in the opposite. So you're going to remove paper 3 first. I sewed at 1.5 on this, but it perforates it. So just like that. And then I'm going to do 2. And I get that crease going. You don't want to stretch your fabric, so you just want to do it gently. And let the perforation of the stitches take it off. You're going to have a little tiny piece up stuck in there. And then this one will just pop out. And that little bit of glue, you might have to like pull it off, but it just comes right out. And there's my perfect block. And it's trimmed because right now it looks like it's not off, but it's going to trim down to right here. It's going to be, the flower is going to be in the same place. And then you're going to have 4 perfect blocks if you use this method. I knew that I wanted to fussy cut this and I wanted to use the paper. So this is just a great way that you can do it. All right. See y'all later. Bye.